Well, our guest on this segment is Bruce Plante. He's the editorial cartoonist for the Tulsa World. Bruce, welcome, old friend. It's good to have you.
Good to be here. Really appreciate the invitation.
If you're like me at my age, it's good to be anywhere.
That's exactly right.
Editorial cartoonist, when did it start?
Second grade. I started off expressing myself cartooning-wise with expressing my feelings about my second grade teacher, Miss Sherman. And she wasn't supposed to see the caricature, and she did, and she grabbed up the cartoon and dragged me out in the hallway and started spanking me, saying, "You're never going to get anywhere drawing those stupid cartoons." But now my cartoons are worldwide, so.
I like that story. I'm going to say this, and you and I are already in agreement on it. I have a friend, a close friend who's a writer, who says that he's asked from time to time, well, you've written so many books and they're bestsellers. Writing must be easy. And he always responds the same way. This is Michael Wallace. He says, that's right, it's real easy. I just sit down and open a vein and off I go. Same thing for you?
I don't open up many veins. I just sort of rub my chin until an idea pops in my head. And sometimes it takes a few minutes, and most of the time it takes several hours after I do a lot of reading on subjects and try to figure out what my subject is and how to convey it and try to do it as simply as possible. But it's not easy, but it's not, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this now. So
it's no longer work.
That's right. I'm not getting spanked anymore. So
or drug out in the hall.
That's right.
One more thing, and then we're going to take a look at some of your work.
Okay.
There's always in your cartoon work a hidden word or a name. Mm-hmm. Can you share that with us?
Sure. Nina was my mother's name, and she passed away at 92. And she was very supportive of what I did, except for the first time she saw one of my cartoons. She said, if you can't say something nice about somebody, well, I told her, I said, well, Mom, this is not exactly nice stuff here. And so she finally figured it out and really was supportive of me and all, and she became a good fan. But she had a major stroke, and she was bedridden for about 2 years, and my cartoons were being reprinted in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the time. So I kept hiding her name in my cartoons just to show her that I was thinking about her.
And she knew about it.
She knew about it, and it ended up being sort of a therapy for her because she was really bedridden for 2.5 years before she passed away. And so it really became something that I didn't tell anybody about, but then some reader noticed it and called me up and said, well, who's Nina? And I told him that was my mother. And just by word of mouth while I was in Chattanooga, it became a big deal where everybody was looking for her name. But one time a guy called me up and said, so where is she? I said, well, which cartoon was it? I said, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to the cartoon. I was looking for Nina. So, I'd rather people look at the cartoon. That's the purpose of the cartoon, for the message. And so that was sort of a weird sort of happenstance.
Oh, Bruce, you bring joy to so many people through your work. Let's take a look at some of that work by Bruce Plante, and we'll go through it and have you comment on it. Fair enough?
Sure.
Here we are.
This was back in 2011. I kind of went back for some of my favorites, and this was, Predict the World will end in 2012. That'll really freak them out. This is from the Teenage Mayan Pranksters. That's a little bit what cartoonists are. We're pranksters.
Okay, before we move it, where's your mom's name?
She's on the stairs right there.
On the stairs?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of sideways, reads from left to right.
I see it.
Yeah. So that's Nina there. And I just kept doing it after my mother passed away, and still trying to show everybody my mother meant a lot to me. That's
great. Now here's the next one.
This is about a book by Jim Mountain Inhofe. That's The Greatest Hoax. It's reviewed by Simply Brilliant by ExxonMobil, the best literary work since Shakespeare, says Shell Oil. And we'll buy a gazillion books. The Koch brothers and the world's foremost scientist, Jim Inhofe, sure convinced us, Saudi Arabia. And he's got our vote for King of the World, BP, and rivals Dick and Jane, says Al Gore. I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee for 22 years, so So next, I've selected several cartoons that are still kind of relevant today, which is here's Obama, who gave the red line. If you don't cross this, hey, Assad in Syria, don't you dare cross this red line. Well, he did, and threw the paint bucket over his head. And that's still having an effect now on politics.
And your mom's name is back in the sand dunes, isn't it?
Yep.
Let's go to the next one.
And this is the Obamacare rollout. And where is she there? I'm not sure I can find her on this one, but
As long as we know she's there.
she's there somewhere.
Probably in Obama's hair.
Yeah, right. And here's Obama said, "Trust me, give him a kiss." He's Obamacare. We know how that turned out, and it's still very valuable to a lot of people. So that's Obama, and I think she's in the. Hey.
Bruce, is there a shortage of political cartoonists today?
Well, actually, I'm one of about 24 or 25 in the entire North America. So.
You're kidding.
No, that's it. And I mean, as far as having a full-time staff job,
Yeah.
like at the Tulsa World, some of them are freelancers and people who are retired or got canned, but they're still drawing cartoons. It's really weird because we are seen by more people nowadays worldwide than ever before. It's just hard to monetize, and when you're working for a newspaper, it's hopefully something that's very valuable to a newspaper, and I swear by it. But
Are you part of a syndicate?
I am a part of a syndicate called KegelCartoons.com, and that's an international syndicate, and it's a pretty good syndicate because we get to go on trips. I went to China and judged some graphic novels, and went to France this past year, just to represent the cartoonists of the United States. So
Got it.
it was a lot of fun.
Let's take a look at some more of your work.
It's the American football, and football is soccer in some places, and 50,000 political footballs, which is the unaccompanied immigrant children.
What a great, I love that cartoon.
Why, thank you.
Love it.
Cool, I finally paid off my college loans. Now I can get started with my life. And we see how old he is.
Poor guy. I see Nina.
I want to be perfectly clear, I'm not a racist.
And there's Nina. Pretty
Yeah.
obvious down in the grass on the right.
Sometimes I'll keep her really obvious, and sometimes I try to really hide her. And some people, here we get into the Trump years, and this is during the campaign, his first campaign. Make me thinner and lose the other guys. That's 2016.
You ever get a complaint?
Oh, yeah, lots of complaints. If you're going to say something, people are going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
And so I'm used to that, so I'm okay with it.
All right.
It's a lot harder, like in France when they killed the 16 cartoonists who
Boy, no joke.
So it's when I went to France, that was one of the things we did was to honor Charlie Hebdo cartoonists who were murdered, and so it puts it in context here in this country where when we get complaints, there's no death threats. I mean, I have had death threats, but that was in North Carolina, so that was a long time ago.
Okay, here's the next one.
This is one of my favorites. Tweeting problem solved. There's a lot of people who like this one, and a lot of people agree with that. They wish he'd quit tweeting so much, but the Chinese finger trap kind
I
of
bet
works.
there are kids today that really, what is that?
Well, as a matter of fact, I did some testing with some younger kids and asked them if they were familiar with that, and they all were. So,
They were, so-
yeah. And that's another thing about cartooning is trying to figure out what is known by everyone. We have so many networks now, different kinds of news and newspapers and different opinions, and so trying to anticipate what people know about is harder and harder as we move along in this day and age.
To date myself, I remember there were 3 networks.
Right.
I remember that.
Right.
And I wonder,
It's hard to know.
it all went downhill. All right, what else we got here? Well, there we are.
Hi, this was G.T. Bynum when he was doing the 918 tour of city of Tulsa. You're the mayor, huh? And I'm the Pope. You have to be 18 to get a 918 tattoo, kid. Well, I dared the mayor to to come by and let me tattoo him, and his mother actually called him and said, "You're not really getting a tattoo, are you?" He goes, "Well, yeah, but it's a Sharpie."
We got about 30 seconds, Bruce, so rather than put one up that we'd have to cut short, let's just take a break
All right.
and come back and see some more. Is that
All
okay
right.
with you?
Yes, sir.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll continue with Bruce Plante, our editorial cartoonist, a member of the family, really, right after this.